Legally in Love, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 9A. By the time they were close to the restaurant, John's fog had cleared enough for him to be nervous. Christian had told him not to tell Emma what they had planned for the dinner, and he wasn't sure how she would react. He instinctively squeezed Emma's hand that he was holding. She smiled up at him. She trusted him. Would that change tonight? There was so much about her he still didn't know, but from what Christian had told him, she wasn't just a white rabbit around him. She helped those she cared about whenever they needed it, then disappeared behind her walls, and Christian didn't just mean her condo. Even when she tried to be invisible, she left a mark. Now that she was his, he wouldn't let her disappear again. Ever. He pulled into a parking space, torn with wanting to give her a heads up, but he'd promised Christian. He stepped out on his side of the truck and walked over to her side. She took his arm as they walked toward the restaurant. He felt ridiculously proud to be with her. He was sure every man in the place was going to be jealous of him as soon as they entered. It was a very popular high-end restaurant. If Christian hadn't been the one to make the reservations, they would not be eating here tonight. The dining room was full when they approached the hostess. John quietly mentioned Christian, and the two were ushered directly to their table. From Emma's perspective, John's arm stiffened. She felt it through his jacket. At the same time, she noticed other diners were watching them. He was gorgeous. Oh, she was plain. Was he embarrassed to be seen with her? Oh man, this was awful. Maybe she should just excuse herself during the dinner and get a cab to go back to her condo, climb under the covers, and never come out again. She could write from there. Being a shut-in seemed like a new dream life. She'd miss the intimacy, really, really miss the intimacy, but at least she wouldn't be an embarrassment to the most important man in her life. Shocked out of her own thoughts, she saw Christian and Auntie at one of the tables. Was this going to be a double date? Christian stood, shook hands with John, and the hostess pulled the additional chairs at the table out for them to sit in. Alarm hit. What was happening? There was a third man sitting on the other side of Christian who also shook John's hand and then extended his hand to Emma. "I can't tell you how thrilled I am to finally meet you, Miss Delaney," he gushed completely unnecessarily. All her muscles stiffened uncomfortably. "Thank you. I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "Of course. My apologies. My name is Keith Amherst. It will be my great pleasure to manage your first, and I hope of many, promotional tours for your newest book." Her world spun instantly. Nothing under her feet seemed solid. She couldn't breathe. Everyone at the table was looking at her, as well as all the eyes she noticed on their way through the dining room. 10 years of hard work being a ghost was crumbling around her in one night. "That is quite a surprise," was the only thing she could think to say. "I know. When Christian said he would entrust me with this, I was also quite delighted," Keith gushed at her. Wrong kind of surprise, she thought to herself. She needed air, now, before she passed out. "Would you excuse me for a minute?" She didn't wait for an answer. She let go of John's arm and made her way to the front door as quickly as she could. From John's perspective, his white rabbit was off again. He took a quick glance at the table and knew it wasn't a surprise to anyone, even Keith, before he started after her. She was a quick one, but this time he'd been ready. The trick would be to get to her before she caught a cab. Even if she did, he would just follow her home and bring her back. She wasn't getting out of living a life this time. She was at the curb pacing. "No, no, no, no," was all she was saying when he approached. He went to touch her as he got near. She turned and saw him that same moment. He froze. Would she hate him for this? Attack him? Never forgive him? All he wanted to do was hold her. That same moment he had that thought, Emma came to him. His arms closed around her and felt her shaking. John could start breathing again. She was still his. They would work everything else out as long as she was still his. "Just breathe, babe. Stay with me and just breathe." "I don't know how to do this, John," she admitted shakily. "I know. I don't either, but we'll figure it out. We need to listen to Keith's plan and have a nice dinner. Think of the schedule he's proposing as research for a case. It's just cold, clinical facts for now. When we're home and you feel safe and comfortable, we'll look it over during the next few days and start making a game plan." Her muscles calmed. The trembling slowed. He moved closer to her ear. "You're not alone, Emma. I'm here now." Emma took a deep breath, then let it out. Her body softened against him. Cold, non-emotional facts. Information that will be further researched later. I can do that. She took another deep, shuddered breath. Moments later, she nodded her head. He held her tight a moment longer before backing away, taking her hand and guiding her gently back to their table. John offered a quick, "Our apologies, you had an important phone call." He felt her flinch from his excuse, but she still took her seat and settled in. "So sorry about that interruption. You said Christian asked you to help with the promotional tour, Mr. Amherst. Did I hear that right?" Her voice was calm, and she was addressing Mr. Amherst, but John noticed she repeatedly glanced at Christian. Her eyes were sharp and fast. He braced himself to move quickly to intercept her again. "Please call me Keith. And yes, he saw my work with—" From Emma's perspective, Christian's face stayed calm, seemingly at peace with completely changing the rules on the final piece of her life she thought she had under control. As Keith listed his credentials, then laid out a quite extensive promotional tour, Emma kept reminding herself this was facts for now, research later. Her current contract with her brother's publishing company had absolved her of any required promotional work for any book they published. The last book she turned in, though, completed that contract, and a new one would need to be negotiated in order for her to continue with them. She'd known her books had been respectfully popular and had recently agreed to allow her image to finally be released in the hope that a similar accommodation would be included in the new contract. Christian was making it very clear that that was not the case. She knew her brother well enough to know if she didn't agree to this promotional tour, even though not required under her current contract, a new one would not be offered. He was playing hardball and she was no match. Doesn't matter how good your poker face is when you both know your opponent is holding a royal flush. She just needed to get through this dinner. She wouldn't let herself think about being face to face with people who read her books or her fear that they would be disappointed by the writer. The schedule included talk shows that had been the first to request an interview and bookstores that were in cities across the country. They were just locations and dates, nothing else if she wanted to keep her dinner down. One abrupt exit from the table was all she would allow herself tonight. John took her hand again and squeezed. His presence helped her breathe and kept the room from spinning. Thank heaven she had a smoothie before coming. Menus were passed around and soon food would be ordered. "Oh, Keith, you'll need to add restaurant options that fit with Emma's dietary restrictions." Christian was being thorough. He was also making her turn red. She hated being a bother to anyone. "That won't be necessary. I can manage my own diet, Keith. Please do not worry." Keith's hand writing his notes froze. He looked up at her, then over at Christian. Christian nodded at Keith, and he continued writing. Emma shifted her eyes to her brother and narrowed them at him in warning. He looked back at her completely relaxed while he took a drink from his water glass. He raised one eyebrow, silently daring her. Point Christian, she was helpless. The waiter showed up out of nowhere, probably just from the kitchen, but she was having a hard time paying attention to anything other than her struggle to stay calm. She looked over the menu for anything she could possibly eat. Simply seasoned vegetable sides were usually safe enough. The waiter took all the orders and retrieved the menus. Emma analyzed the proposed schedule. Keith was good. "This is a very thorough proposal, Keith, and it clearly took a lot of work. I'm grateful and quite impressed," she told him honestly. "Oh, thank you, Miss Delaney." He spoke back seemingly genuinely thrilled, which confused her. "Mrs. Delaney, Mrs. Delaney Mitchell, actually," she corrected, then realized she didn't even know what she would go by now. There was too much information for her to even process tonight. "On second thought, please just call me Emma." Bed, covers, closed doors, and alone. Happy place. Her comfort zone wasn't even on the horizon anymore. The food arrived and was laid in front of all of them. A plate was placed in front of her, lamb with carrots, and it smelled delicious. It also wasn't what she ordered. She looked at Christian again. Her brother had made sure a dinner would be prepared that she could eat, nothing included that could harm her. Also made sure to order carrots instead of her favorite broccoli because she would worry about the smell at the table. With everyone distracted by waitstaff, she glanced at her brother, mouthed a silent "thank you," and was awarded with one of his rare smiles. He nodded back at her. She ate slowly. The last thing she wanted to do was finish her dinner long before everyone else and awkwardly sit there with nothing to do. She started to get tired. All the focus on not showing how much she was shaking was really starting to wear her out. The rest of the evening was more of a blur. Polite conversation, dessert course where she enjoyed a cup of unsweetened chamomile tea. She wasn't sure if she'd be able to walk out of the restaurant on her own by the time everyone started to get up to leave. I look forward to working with you. My proposal will have all of my contact information. Please feel free to use it whenever you need, day or night. Emma started to feel like she was going to start to cry. She was overly tired and completely overwhelmed. Keith was being so kind. Her brother was relentlessly dismantling her whole world. She had the husband of her dreams. Her best friend was back in her life and lost her mother all in less than 12 hours. John took her hand. She felt him stiffen at her touch and cursed that she couldn't control the trembling that had started. He said it quick. Well, I have an early morning tomorrow, if you'll excuse us. We will look over your proposal, Keith, and start setting final plans this week. He stood and helped her to her feet. He moved to leave and guided her to go with him, but she paused and leaned back toward Keith. Thank you again for all you've done. Her smile was weak. She could feel the deep fatigue coming on, but she wanted him to know how grateful she was for his work. His smile was kind. Anytime, just contact me. John pulled more firmly now. She successfully walked with him out of the restaurant on her own. By the time they made it to the street, though, her shaky legs had her stumbling on her heels. John switched the hand holding hers and put the now free arm around her waist, preventing her from falling. Are you okay? His voice was so concerned it made her wince. He was worried. She was such a failure. I desperately want to say I'm fine, but I'm really struggling right now. Her emotional dam was starting to break. It had been a simple dinner with family and a new friend, talk some business, and she felt like she was about to collapse. Christian wanted her to go on tour, but how would she ever be able to complete the entire schedule without letting at least someone down? She was too weak to keep her fears from breaking through John's brilliant plan of just keeping to the facts. John shifted his hand, lifted her into his arms, and now she was being a burden to him. Why did she always let the one she cared about down? She turned her face into his shoulder, hiding her eyes from anyone who would see how weak she was. Her breathing shuddered. Tears trailed down her cheeks, and she prayed John wouldn't know. He set her down by his truck and braced her against his body while he unlocked the door and lifted her in. He buckled her in, closed the door, and rushed to the driver's side. The truck was started, and he pulled out quickly. Once they were on the road, he took her hand. She smiled weakly at him, trying to reassure him that she was okay, but was pretty sure it didn't help. Mind if I rest on the ride home?